Move forward, brothers.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya, nabiyina rasulullah, al-Qasim Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsan ila yawm al-din wa ba'd. So last week we covered the issue as it relates to the signs of their judgment in connection with the lifting of knowledge and the knowledge being taken away from the people by the removal and the death of the ulama, and then instead there's a spread of ignorance and knowledge will be taken from the young people, from the foolish people, and from those people that are not worthy of taking knowledge of. And فَسُئِلُوا فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ فَضَلُّوا وَأَضَلُّوا. These people will speak without knowledge and give verdicts without knowledge, يعني ilm al-shar'i, without knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, as it was understood by the Sahaba and those upon their way. And therefore they will be misguided themselves, i.e. they will not be upon the way of the Salaf, upon the manhaj of the Salaf, upon the aqidah of the Salaf, upon the fahm of the Salaf themselves. And therefore they'll be misguided and they will be misguiding those who reach out to them. And we discussed some of the themes around that in current times and some of the things that we see. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam informed of the fact that towards the end of times people will begin to take knowledge from the asagir, those who are young or those who are less in knowledge. And Ibn Mubarak rahimahullah and other than him also explained that it means the people of bid'ah. That the forum will become so spread that people will begin to take knowledge from people of innovation openly and without any shame. We see this today. So we went through that in some considerable detail. So moving on from that, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is the increase in wealth. لا تقوم الساعة حتى يكثر المال ويفيد حتى يخرج الرجل بزكاة ماله فلا يجد أحدا يقبلها منه. That the day will not be established up until there is an increase in wealth. And wealth is present in abundance. And due to that, there'll be very few, if anyone, who will be prepared to take the zakah. There'll be people offering the zakah, but very few, if any, will be willing to take it. It will be rarely and be very scarce to find someone prepared to take the zakah. لا تقوم الساعة حتى يفيد فيكم المال. In another narration, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that wealth will increase greatly up until the point that a person will want to give sadaqah. حين يتصدق فيه فيقول الذي يؤرد عليه لا إراب لي به. That he's prepared to give sadaqah in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, prepared to part with his wealth, but there'll be scarcely anyone prepared to take that sadaqah of that person, because nobody will be in need of it. So we are talking about a time when wealth would have spread greatly amongst the people. And of course, wealth is either a trial and a fitna for that person, or it's a means of blessing. We know this. It's how you utilize and how you spend your wealth. And there's stages to that. The first stage being how you earned that wealth. How is it that that wealth came into your pocket? That pound, that penny, that gold, that silver, or whatever it is. How is it that it came into your possession? That's the first thing. So the believer is someone that he's always making sure and ensuring that the wealth which he has, or that he feeds himself with, or his family with, or his parents with, is a wealth which is pure. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, in his Al-Jami Sahih, he has many different ways of explaining his fiqh and his understanding of a hadith. And sometimes you'll find that he'll put a hadith relating to zakah under a total different chapter heading, and sometimes relating to Tawheed under the book of Libas or somewhere. Like, this is a fiqh of Imam Bukhari. One of the points that I wanted to mention was that just like your iman cannot be intact, and you as a person cannot do tazkiyatun nafs without having the correct aqidah, without having the correct belief system, similarly your wealth cannot be purified unless you give that sadaqah and the zakah in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like your tawheed purifies your iman and makes your iman correct and makes your qalb salim, your heart which is pure and upright, the giving of zakah and the giving of sadaqah is something which also will purify your wealth. And it's such a shame that we're in a time where people have the wealth but they don't give the zakah. These hadiths are mentioned that people will have the wealth and they'll want to give in zakah. We're going through a time where people have the wealth but they don't want to give the zakah. And the justifications are ludicrous. Why should I give my zakah? And there's a whole article and books have been written on this topic. Why should I give my zakah to the leader or the government of my Muslim country because he's corrupt, he's only going to spend it on his cars and his palaces? Ya akhi, Allah Azza wa Jal had made that zakah obligatory upon you, upon your wealth, so that you can purify your wealth once you reach a certain stage of an accumulation of that wealth over a certain period of time. So this hila, this way out, this not wanting to give zakah, and we've reached such a stage, brothers and sisters, and this is shocking, where people in our countries, our brothers and our sisters, when it comes to the period, the year has lapsed and it's time to give zakah, they will go and they will go to their local council. This is our countries. And they will register their religion as a religion other than Islam. So they will say that we have become Zaydi, for example. Or we have become this faction of the Qadiani sect. Or, because that way I don't have to pay my zakah. When the time for zakah passes, it goes back and says, can you write me as a Muslim again? Allahu Akbar Kabira. This is so scary, brothers and sisters. Who gave you that wealth in the first place? Who do you belong to? Who does your wealth belong to? Who are you trying to play this hila, this game, this deception with? So this is all linked to a weakness of Tawheed and Aqidah and Iman. It truly is. And these are actions which are totally unjustifiable. There's no ta'wil to be made, no excuse, no uzr for this. So when's the last time, for example, we've told our parents, how do we not give zakah? Why are we not giving zakah? Son, it's your inheritance, don't worry. Then you stop asking your father because you're greedy and you want to just accumulate wealth. When my dad dies, I'll take that wealth. You might die before your dad. So it's a responsibility, ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara, and wata'awanu alal birri wa taqwa wa la ta'awanu alal ismi wal udwan, that you help each other upon righteousness. Likewise, you help each other upon staying away from the haram, from the muharramat. So we should be in a role of advising ourselves and our loved ones, our parents, our uncles, our aunts. Why are we not giving zakah? Just because we're here, we don't need to give zakah? Who told us this? And linking it back to last week, there are some people that say that from the ulama, they're not the ulama. They have given this fatwa, by the way, that you don't need to give zakah if you live in the West. This is nonsense, by the way. Nobody is excused from the giving of zakah if they meet a certain criterion. Just like Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, stood firm upon this principle. By Allah, I will not allow them to withhold even a rope that they used to give to Muhammad or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The mani'in zakah, those who didn't give the zakah. But they say La ilaha illallah. That La ilaha illallah is not sufficient. But they say La ilaha illallah. That La ilaha illallah or Umar is not sufficient. because they're withholding back that which they used to give to Muhammad or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years later, brothers and sisters, how relaxed are we financially? Alhamdulillah. Car, house, clothes, everything, alhamdulillah. We are in a position to give that sadaqah, to give that zakah, but we don't do it. We don't give that zakah. And the giving of sadaqah, what can we say about that? That we don't already know. When the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that save yourself from the fire, ittaqu nawalu bishakki tamratin, even if you give the one stone of a date or one date, you give in the way of Allah, this is enough to maybe save trials and tribulations which are greater than that. The greatest trial is the fire of hell. If one date can save you from that, with pure ikhlas in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, liwajhi Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what about the fitna of this dunya and the trials of this dunya? It's nothing in comparison to the fitna and the trial of being in the hellfire. So one date can save us from that. So we overlook these things concerning sadaqah, and we think that, you know what, I pray my 5 salawat in a day and that's it for me. No, it's beyond that. So Shaykh al-Bani rahmatullahi alayhi, in an authentic hadith that he's authenticating Sahih al-Jami', he mentioned that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the sadaqah which you give, sadaqah to sir, the sadaqah which you give in seclusion, the sadaqah which you give in seclusion, it does what? It lessens Allah's anger upon you. Allahu Akbar. It lessens, it extinguishes Allah being angry with us. Allah is afu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is afu. He pardons, He overlooks. Wa afu an kathir. How many times in a day, in a night, do we do things against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul have informed us of? How many times do we slip up? How many times do we make mistakes, fall into errors, fall into mistakes knowingly and unknowingly? But Allah Azza wa Jal overlooks it. And this is from His mercy, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He overlooks it. And then, if He were to become angry with us, that this is something that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to ask Allah Azza wa Jal constantly. Oh Allah, don't change your anger into your pleasure. Allahumma inni a'udhu birizaka min sakhatik wa mu'afatika min uqubatik. Oh Allah, change your being angry. If you were to be angry with me, change that into being happy with me, being satisfied with me. Who's asking for this? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do we think that we're free from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But look what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Give sadaqah, this will take away and extinguish Allah's anger upon you if He's going to be angry with you. Allahu Akbar. Sadaqah in seclusion. So here we have a time where people are giving the sadaqah. They're giving the zakah. But there's nobody willing to take it. Because these people know that the entire purpose of their creation is not just to accumulate wealth. Nor is it just to grab the wealth wherever it comes from. I'm not entitled to sadaqah, but I'll still take it. No. These people are saying we don't need that sadaqah. So these are people who are upright. So this is a time when the people are upright, alhamdulillah. Some of the ulama, like Ibn Hajar has mentioned, that this event, if you want to call it, has already occurred. In the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahmatullahi alayh. The people are upright. They are upon the way of the Salaf. They have the khashiyah, they have the khawf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some have said that this as a general, more global event will occur when Mahdi radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa salamu alayhi comes and the peace and tranquility is established in the dunya. Meaning the people become upright. They'll be willing to give the sadaqah and the zakah. They'll want to purify themselves. They'll want to purify their wealth, but the greatness and the barakah of them following Tawheed, being upon the Sunnah, will be such that Allah Azza wa Jal, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, Allah Azza wa Jal will open up the heavens and they'll be in much wealth. There'll be no need for the accumulation of wealth. Our situation is, the more we have, the more we want. The more we have, the more we want, the more we need. The more we need. And this is from Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi mentions, this is actually from the whispering of shaitan. And if we were to study the seerah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the seerah of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, they had little but they were content. Abu Hurairah narrated that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was from amongst the poorer companions, the ones who suffered greatly due to being poor, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of being close to Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and accompanying him on his journeys and what have you, so he could write down the hadith and memorize the hadith. He said to him, O Abu Hurairah, be content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Be content with the little that He has given you, and you will see yourself to be from the most richest of people. Wallahi brothers, this is true. To be content with the little that we have, it's a richness of the heart. It's actual freedom. So that we then truly become ibadallah, slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not enslaved to the wealth, or not enslaved to position, or not enslaved to achieving a goal of the dunya, but we're enslaved to who? Our Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a great maqam. This is a status which is tremendous. Because all of the Anbiya were slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is treading the path of the Anbiya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do that. From amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us, Inna bayna yadi sa'a taslim al-khasa wa fushu al-tajara hatta yashil al-mar'u zawjaha ala tajarati wa qatal al-arhami wa shahadat al-zur wa kitmana shahadat al-haq wa dhuhur al-qalam. Wa dhuhur al-qalam. From amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is that specifically certain people will be referred to, and business will become widespread to the point that the female companion of a person will help her in his business. Allahu Akbar. And she will help her husband. She will be helping her husband in business. And relationships will be broken. Relationships will be broken. And people will give a witness which is a false witness. And they will hide the witness which is truthful. And the pen and the value of the pen will increase. So many of the points in this hadith speak for themselves. Are we not going through this time? Yani, if we say someone is not going to work and I'm going to take care of my wife, we are called backward. If we say that I'm going to go and I'm going to work 15 hours a day and I want my wife to be the queen of my house, Sawala ya Sheikh, you're backward. How is this? How is this backward? Brothers, come a bit forward if you can, please. Jazakallah. We want to give our wives everything so that they don't have to work and we go and work. This is something ajib, something strange. You're not giving the women their rights. So, yani, everything has turned upside down. I'm not speaking about whether women should work or not. This is not fatwa corner, no. I'm talking about generally how this thing is perceived. That you want to look after your wife or your wives and you want to look after your children, then this is something which is frowned upon in our society. And by the way, not only here, in our own countries, this is frowned upon now. So this is the first thing, the first observation. People will break their relationships, Allahu Akbar, over what? Over this business, over this wealth, over this tajara, over worldly issues, worldly gains. The Rasul told you and I that the one who shelters Ahlul Bid'ah in this city of mine, Yani in the Prophet ﷺ city, then there's much punishment upon that person. Bukhari. And from the angels and other than that, punishment will start raining down on that person. For what? Giving shelter to a person of bid'ah. Where we needed to cut the relationship from the person of shirk and bid'ah, we said, come, bismillah. وَدُّوا لَوْ تُدْهِنُوا فَيُدْهِنُونَ. You come to us, we come to you, we're all together. Ta'awun with Ahlul Bid'ah, no problem. Ta'awun with Ahlul Shirk, no problem. But when it comes to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, keep the relationship with your families. Man kata'ani kata'ahullah, the one who splits and breaks from his family, then he's going to be broken from the relationship with Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And of course, there's a tafsil to this, there's a detailed understanding to this. Over money and over wealth and over a piece of land or something that we don't even own, our father earned all his life to earn and to accumulate, we're fighting over that. And we don't speak to our brother for the rest of our life. That house, remember, his father's still alive yet. Wallahi, brothers, this is not story time. I'm telling you, I've seen a portion of my life at least where people have sat before me and discussed this in front of me. Why have you fallen out with your brother? Why are you taking your brother to court? So on and so forth. Why? Because my dad's got 2 houses and I want the bigger house. But my dad dies and he's saying you can't have that. And I've got more children and I deserve that. Brother, your dad's alive yet. Brother, did you earn that house? No, my dad earned it. My dad used to work in the factory. He's retired now, 40 years, and he bought them 2 houses. So, youngsters, us, all of us, father's alive and we're trying to distribute his wealth. And we're now saying, you know what? I'm never going to speak to you until the day that I die. Don't even come to my funeral. Because you've took something that doesn't even belong to me, doesn't belong to you, it actually belongs to our father. So this is the time that we're going through. And it's a serious, serious sickness of the heart. Because he didn't spend a penny for that wealth. And it belongs to his father to distribute. And his sole purpose is, her sole purpose is, she plots and plans with her husband day and night. How do we ensure that we grab that wealth and it doesn't go to the other brother? And every trick in the book is used. That's it. Let's make hajr from them. The Salaf have written hajrul mubtadi. Hajr from the person of bid'ah and shirk. We're making hajr, we're going away from each other and breaking the ties of kinship because of a small piece of land or a bank account that's not even in our name. What a sad reality. What a sad reality. And the womb will be before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And it will be pleading with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as is mentioned in authentic hadith. Oh Allah, today have mercy on all those that kept their relationship with their relatives and break it off from all of those that broke it off between each other in the dunya. So this is a very serious matter, to break off the relationship from our relatives without justification. And that justification is a shari'i justification. لا يحل لمسلم أن يخجر أخاه فوق ثلاثة. And this is a general rule. The starting point is that don't fall into such a dispute with your brother that you stop speaking with him for more than 3 days. For us, it turns into 3 months, 3 years, and far greater than that. So maybe over business, a sign of the day of judgment, people will come split. The brother will fall out with the brother, the sister will fall out with the sister. وَظُهُورَ الْقَلَمِ, and the pen will see a greater increase in its status. Some of the scholars have mentioned concerning this point that other than the Quran and Sunnah will be written in such great volume that people will have too much choice in front of them. And do we not see that time today? Libraries filled with thousands of books. The good, the bad, the ugly, the evil, any you name it on a topic, the book is there. And towards the end of times, the increase in printing of books, the increase in publication of anything that someone wants to write. There's a freedom where anyone can write whatever they want. They just write. And now new ways are being innovated where people are writing, and it's on our phones, is it not? PDFs on our phones. Yeah, the thing is increasing and increasing and increasing. But the point is, how is it that you utilize this? It'll either be a point of benefit for us, where we're looking at a hadith or looking at points of fiqh, aqidah or tafsir, or the beauty of Islam, and we're reading upon that, and we're benefiting from that, or we're spending our time looking at comic books and novels and fiction and science, non-fiction or aliens, whatever. How is it that we're going to spend our time? And of course, there's an importance here in relation to books also. The Salaf didn't only pass on this knowledge to us through memorization, but they passed it on to us through writing it down also. And there's a great importance attached, especially when it comes to ilm al-shar'i, that we write down knowledge. Because if you're going to hear it, it's very easy to forget or to mix it up at a later date. So one of the interpretations that some of the scholars have also given is that people will begin to write down more, even on Islam, and publish more and explain in great detail, even more through books as time passes. And we're seeing this. Sheikh Muhammad Adam al-Ethiopi, Hafidhahullah ta'ala alayhi, who's alive today, he has, for example, explained Sunan Nasa'i, I think in 42 volumes. I think Bukhari is in 50-something volumes. Sahih Muslim is, I think, in 30 or 40 volumes. This is now. He's alive. Hafidhahullah. A scholar of hadith. So, and then Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahmatullahi alayhi. These are the ulama. Passed away, 20 years ago. And his books are still being published today, new books. His ta'liqat on Sahih al-Bukhari, his Rasail. When you look at the books, the book list of Shaykh Allama Imam Uthaymeen, rahmatullahi alayhi, is shocking. How did these people find the time to do that? The reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses his people in whichever way he wants to. And he blessed these ulama. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, 600, 700 years ago. People are benefiting today from his Majmu' al-Fatawa and all the books that he wrote. These are not small books, 30 volumes, 32 volumes. So, as time goes on, the writing will increase, and the importance of the pen will also be something that will be valued even further. Similarly, from the signs of the Day of Judgment is what is narrated by Abu Malik al-Ash'ari, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He reports that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا يكونن من أمتي أقوام لا يستحلون الحر والحرير والخمر والمعازف. That there would be certain individuals from my ummah who will make permissible zina, fornication, who will make permissible silk, yani silk for men, who will make permissible alcohol, and who will make permissible musical instruments. All of these things have been made permissible in this ummah already. And it all goes back to what we discussed last week. فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ فَأَضَلُّوا وَأَضَلُّوا. People will give fatwa without knowledge, and they will misguide themselves, and they will misguide others. There's an Islamic council of certain ulama in London. There's a few councils there. I forget the actual name of it. they have actually given a verdict, a fatwa, to restaurant owners in the East End of London to stock alcohol and send alcohol to the customers. This fatwa is actually maybe 20 years old. And if you walk into the restaurant, you will see alcohol on the walls and this fatwa next to it. A'udhu billah. With verses or whatever it is. This is the time. This is the reality. We have to wake up. When we talk about the sign of the Day of Judgment, we think it's very far away. Actually, it's right now in front of us. And this was about 20 years ago in East London. It's right now in front of us. This is not just stories just to entertain us. Day of Judgment, when it comes, when it happens. No. It's right now in front of us. And time doesn't permit, but if we could go even further back, where people of bid'ah, people of hawa, of desires, they would justify the drinking of alcohol. They would justify music and musical instruments. We gave a whole lecture here about 2 months ago on people that call themselves mufti, that are going to YouTube and saying, listen to music, it's okay. Who's your favorite singer? What's the favorite instrument that you play? And they make these narrations weak. These are people that are corrupt and misguided. We covered this in an entire lecture. And because we have such a need for music, and such a need to be entertained, because what happens with music is your heart becomes attached to that tone, to that sound. And then it becomes attached to that lyrics which are filled with kufr. And now that's it, that music's got you. In our culture we have something called qawwali. Some fat man with long hair sits at the front. They're not all fat, right? Some people sit at the front with a group of 10, 15 other men, wallahi, clapping. So that tone gets inside you, playing a drum. And then after that, the lyrics. What's the lyrics? Oh, Ali, help me. Wallahi, this is the lyrics, yes or not? Ya Ali Madad, like this. Shirk, open. Qawwali. What's Qawwali? Qawwali is shirk. And you think this Michael Jackson and all these other people are better than that? Our ulama are trustworthy, alhamdulillah. In ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. When our scholars inform us of an event and something that they've witnessed, we take it, alhamdulillah. Our scholars have informed us in recent times. One of the scholars in Saudi Arabia, his friend came and said that my son was crossing the road and with him was some friends and they've had an accident and it looks like that they're in the last stages of their life. Oh Sheikh, come with us to the scene. So the Sheikh says that he attended the scene of the accident and this man's son, youngster, is lying there on the ground. And the Sheikh says to him, say La ilaha illallah. But the youngster is singing songs. This is not hocus pocus stories, brothers. This is reality. He said, say La ilaha illallah, my son. Say La ilaha illallah. But he's carrying on singing that song, whatever it was. And he's singing and he's singing up until that angel of death came and took his soul. Because death is always around the corner, is it not? You want to hide in the highest tower, the highest building. Death is going to come. How and when it comes, Allah Azza wa Jalla knows. When you were a drop in the womb of your mother, Allah had decided this for us. In which land He is going to die. He's written it. When the soul is blown, it's written for you. Allah knows that. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. Nobody has that knowledge except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's singing the song. Singing musical instruments, these are things that corrupt the soul, take you further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا أَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ. Oh Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you weren't a poet. Allah says that in the Quran. Certain poetry like Hassan ibn Sabit radiallahu ta'ala used to do, it's permissible. Defending Islam, defending the Prophet, beauty of Islam, defending the honor of your brothers, sisters, your parents, family, Quran, Sunnah, this is nice. Certain poetry is haram also. So this is a sickness that develops in the heart of people. And especially music. Music is actually something that is very, very, very easy to fall into. But brothers and sisters, like Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi said, it's actually very, very, very hard to leave. Because it really goes and it sits on your heart. And in your body, fil jasadi mudghah, وَإِذَا صَلَّى تَصْلُ الْقُلُّ وَإِذَا فَسَدَ تَصْلُ الْقُلُّ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. In your body, there's a piece of flesh. If it's pure and upright, then the entire body, i.e. your actions, are pure and upright. And if it becomes corrupt and dirty, then your entire being, your behavior, your characteristics become corrupt and dirty. What is it other than the heart? This is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So music is something that goes and sits and it attacks your heart. When the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a small child, we know that two angels came to him and they took his heart out and they washed it with the water of Zamzam. And they took out a black portion from the being of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We believe in this. We have iman in this. And you know, even as a child, when his grandfather, uncle, they'd be surrounded in the sittings that they'd have in the evenings of lewd stories or music or singing, dancing. Do you know, he would go a distance far away from that. Allahu Akbar. This is what we get from the seerah of the beloved Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have to teach our young children at a very young age about this music. Not just to get them to be quiet, make them sit them in front of the TV and listen to whatever you want to listen to. This is something that we're going to be questioned about as parents. So people will start making these things halal. And to make things halal is done through various ways. Sometimes it's done through the tongue, sometimes it's done through the heart, and sometimes it's done through express actions. So if your children see you listening to music, see you drinking alcohol, then don't be surprised that later in life, if they have the same characteristics. Likewise, your clothing, silk for men is haram. Now people will write books on this and they'll become fixated with this. What was the need for the Prophet to say that? Why are women allowed it and not? This why? Questioning Islam always. Questioning what your Lord has revealed always. This is the foundational corruption which will burn a person. It will finish a person's iman off. Why can a man have 4 wives and why can a wife not have? Yani, why? Why do women have to cover? Why not men? What about this? What about... All of this is from the plots and the planning of shaitan. And likewise, shaitan may whisper to you, well, why is music haram? I enjoy it. What's wrong with alcohol? I'll only drink a bit of it as long as it doesn't intoxicate me. Wallahi, Muslim people say this justification. I only drink a bit, it doesn't intoxicate me. No, you're wrong. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us, kullu maskarin haram. Everything which intoxicates is haram. Whether that is in a small portion or a large portion, it's haram. So we're finding justifications to make these things halal for us. I only drink a bit. But your Prophet forbid it for you completely. Likewise, clothing. He forbid you from that. He forbid you from gold for men. He says, I'll wear white gold. Who are you trying to fool? Who are you trying to deceive? What if it has 49% silver or 59% silver or 51% silver and 49% gold? Allahu Akbar. So we're always, Shaitan is constantly telling us and whispering in our ear to find ways to try to go behind what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us. And this is actually the sign of the Day of Judgment, where Islam becomes so weak and so less that there's no one left mentioning the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, that which is known to be haram, zina, fornication, la taqrabu zina, don't go even near it. The concept of ghaddul basar, keeping your eyes low, that which leads to haram is also haram for you. There's a zina of the eyes, there's a zina of the hands, there's a zina of the tongue. There's a zina of your body parts. For us, the concept of zina is just to, the action of zina. It's beyond that. The Rasul has informed us of that. So people will find ways of trying to make these things halal. This is what this narration means. The ways of trying to make music halal. He's mentioning a nasheed, speaking about the qualities of Rasulullah, about the beauty of Islam. But he's got someone singing in the background, humming in the background, beatboxing, yeah? Like, I can't even do it. Like some bumblebees flying on your head or something. Wallah, and some of it sounds exactly like music. Brother, this is music. He said, brother, wallah, it's not music. I've got 4 or 5 people on the stage, some men, some women, and I'm making them imitate the sound of music. Allahu Akbar. Do we not see this today? Our ulama, the ulama of the Salafis, they warn from these anashid that are based upon this. They warn from these anashid because this will take you away from the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're always trying to find ways just to justify that. I'm so desperate when it comes to alcohol that I'm now going to have Carlsberg alcohol free. Do we not see this today? So as a nation, as a people, what happens is that we become so mutasahil, we become so relaxed. That Hudayfa ibn Yaman used to say that there should not be any talawun in the religion, changing of the color. Meaning that which was haram yesterday, you find ways of making it halal for yourself today. This is authentic hadith. Whether it's the music, whether it's the singing, dancing, whether it's the clothing, whether it's the alcohol. We have tried to find ways to go beyond the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, guidance and salvation is only in what our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has informed us of. And likewise, in authentic hadith, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala narrated that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Min ashrati as-sa'a an yurfa al-ilmu wa yakthur al-jahl wa yushrab al-khamr." And we've mentioned this before. From the sign of the Day of Judgment is that knowledge will be lifted, ignorance will be much, and the drinking of alcohol will become widespread. It will become something known. A believer is a person that is firm upon the principle, just like that date palm tree. Its trunk is firm and fixated in the ground. Doesn't matter how much wind comes, it stays firm. It doesn't start to waver at the very first sign of trouble, or turn to the right or turn to the left. The believer knows that the path of salvation is one, but the paths of misguidance are many. Whether it's music, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, whether it's in alcohol, or whether it's zina, fornication. وَأَنَّ هَذَا ثِرَاتِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوا وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. So the believer is upon this manhaj. As far as alcohol is concerned, then the Rasul ﷺ has expressly cursed 10 groups of people. He ﷺ has cursed 10 groups of people, and the hadith is in Tirmidhi for those who want to know this. And I'll actually give the reference for this. It's well worth looking up. Hadith in Tirmidhi, hadith 2046. Well worth looking at this hadith up. And you'll also find this hadith in Tirmidhi, hadith number 1295. 10 people the Rasul ﷺ has cursed. This is serious. Number one, the one who makes that alcohol. Two, the one who's involved in the process of generating, squeezing the grapes or whatever it is concerning that alcohol. Three, the one who drinks it. Four, the one who carries it. Five, the one who it's taken to. Six, the one who serves it. Seven, the one who distributes it, sells it. Eight, the one who takes the wealth from the profit from the selling of the alcohol. Nine, the one who sells it. And 10, the one who it's bought for.
Can you just repeat that, Sheikh?
Yeah. So, the one who is involved in the process, the distilling of it, you could say. The second one, who's involved in the last process of fermentation or the squeezing of the grapes or fruit or whatever it is. Three, the one who drinks it. Four, the one who carries it. Five, the one who is carried for. Six, the one who gives it to drink. Seven, the one who sells it or is a vendor who sells the alcohol. Eight, the one who takes the money from the sale of that alcohol. Nine, the one who's the actual seller himself. And 10, the one who it's been purchased for. So, I'm a wholesaler. I buy alcohol. I don't drink it myself, but I just put it in my storage for a few customers, and then I distribute it to them whenever they need it. Ya Sheikh, is this halal? No, it's not. But people have, based upon corruption, said that this kind of thing is permissible. Be careful of these people who fake ilm. There's fake news and then there's fake knowledge. This is fake knowledge. They fake their knowledge. They have no knowledge. May Allah save us from such destruction and being involved in such things. And of course, it's not permissible to use alcohol as a point of fiqh in your medicines as well. Allah is pure. Allah is pure and He only accepts that which is pure. And our ulama have given a fatwa based upon this hadith that you're not allowed to use alcohol in medication also. It was open to the men who had been stung by the scorpion in the time of Rasulullah to use alcohol. But they didn't. In fact, what did they do? They read the Fatiha. They done the ruqya, they read the Fatiha. They didn't use the alcohol. And the examples and the evidences are many for that point. So these are all things, brothers and sisters, that we have to avoid. And as a continuation of that from the signs of the Day of Judgment is that in the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, رؤوسهم بالمعازف والمغنيات يخسف الله بهم الأرض ويجعل منهم القردة والخنازير. Dangerous. Dangerous. That my ummah will fall into the drinking of alcohol, but they will call it a name other than that. As I just explained. These are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They've been drinking the alcohol, but they'll call it a name other than that. And from this, the scholars of fiqh and hadith have devised a principle Brothers and sisters, it's actually very important that we understand this. To explain it in simple terms, the changing of a title of something doesn't change its attributes. The changing of a name of something doesn't mean its makeup and its characteristics have been altered. What do we mean by that? What does that mean? You young man at the front, what does that mean? Just because you change the name of something, it doesn't mean you've changed how that thing is made up. What does that mean? Give me an example. Let's say you called alcohol Coca-Cola. Yeah, funny, right? But it doesn't mean now it's Coca-Cola, right? Because how that thing is made up, it's still alcohol. So we don't be fooled into thinking that just because this has a different name attached to it, therefore it's not haram. The believer is someone who always investigates. He always wants to be closer to halal than to haram or that which is unclear. Na'am ya Shaykh.
Same when, as you give example of changing the tune of your voice, make it tune, you do it with music, but it's music actually.
Yeah, if you want to maybe stretch it, مَا تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ, that if you imitate a people, then you're from amongst them. There's no doubt. So yeah, that can fall into it, and Allah knows best. Whatever, it's still alcohol, yeah. 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 So this is something that we should be fully aware of when it comes to not only eating products, but generally in how a Muslim behaves and how a Muslim lives. That let's not get fooled into thinking that just because something is now called, like our brother mentioned, a nasheed, it must be permissible. No, we have to investigate whether it's breaking any of the laws set down by Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So towards the end of time, the people will change the name of this alcohol into something else, but it'll still be alcohol. And people will be entertaining themselves from singers. So people will actually go to theatre. They'll go to cinema. This is happening in the Ummah right now. Sisters covered, heads covered, scarves, brothers, beards, alhamdulillah, you know. Brother, where are you going? I'm just going to the cinema, watching Harry Potter with my kids. We have to be careful of this. And by the way, you know, when we have children, it's actually a very testing time. Children sometimes take you to such a stage, if you are not firm in your deen, that it's very easy for you to become too relaxed in your religion. This is the reality. Like I said, that which was haram yesterday shouldn't all of a sudden become mubah, permissible or halal today for us. So going to the cinemas, going to the theatre, so on and so forth. Where's the tazkiyah in that? Where's the purification of the soul and the heart in that? It's a happiness, a pleasure, which is very short-lived. As soon as you leave that theatre, that cinema, or whatever it is, you could be back in that same world, that same pressure. Your kids will still be crying. It's just very short-lived. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. It's the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gives peace and tranquility to the hearts. Likewise, the Rasul ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُبْغِضُ الْفَاحِشَ وَالْمُتَفَحِّشَ وَلَا تَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ حَتَّى يَظْهَرَ الْفُحْشُ. That from the signs of the Day of Judgment is that to be openly lewd, to be openly a sinner, it'll be something very easy. And sinning will be done openly. Sinning will be done openly. What we say that the shame amongst the people will have become far less, and that which opposes shame, openly sinning, not caring what people think or what society thinks, openly being involved in the haram will become very public and very open. The Rasul ﷺ has informed us of this. And once again, this is something that we see all the time around us. And of course, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. The Rasul ﷺ has told us that a time will come when there will be much evil and lewdness and wickedness open. But he's also told us a cure. And from amongst the cures of safeguarding yourself from that is safeguarding your salah. Being connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regularly. Throughout the day, from the morning all the way to up until the point that you sleep. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ وَاشْكُرُونِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Constantly making his tongue moist with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Ibn al-Qayyim said. So he's involved in salah. And he's at peace and security through that. She's at peace and security through that. So the greatest security is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps that fahisha, the haram, away from that person. Yet the haram is happening right outside of their doorstep. And this, brothers and sisters, is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When He safeguards you from a fitna, when He safeguards you from the haram, when He safeguards you from evil and wretchedness, this is something that we must make shukr for. Shaykh bin Baz rahmatullahi alayhi used to say that when a person gives da'wah, this is one of the imams of this time who passed away 20 years ago, Imam Ibn Baz rahmatullahi alayhi, a great scholar, may Allah have mercy on him. He used to say that when you give da'wah and you go and tell people about the deen of Islam, then before you start saying to that person, why are you doing that haram for? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? First, make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He saved you from that haram. Once you realize, he said, that you've been saved from that kufr, from that shirk, from that bid'ah, from that haram, then this should hopefully, inshallah, increase you in your ikhlas. And should remove any kibr, any pride that might come in your heart. Because you'd have already admitted before you even utter your first word that the only reason I'm not doing that shirk, that kufr, that bid'ah, that haram is because Allah, you saved me. It's not in my own capability. It's not in my own strength, in my own power. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And then pride, he said, will not enter your heart as a person who gives da'wah. Al-kibr batrul haq wa ghamdun nas. Because pride, the Rasul said, is to look down on the people and to reject the truth. So we'll end it therefore today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of the salaf and all of our ulama upon that way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from the haram. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and allow us to make shukr of Him. We will continue next week. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala alayhi. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Na'am, questions? I'm sure. Yeah, yes. You
said, you know if someone gets alcohol, they make alcohol, they put in a bottle of Pepsi, and you buy it, but you don't know it's alcohol, you get a sin.
Okay. Interesting question. So you go to a shop. Yeah. Do you know the shop? Do you know the shopkeeper? You don't know the shopkeeper? Okay. We made it more difficult now. So you go to the shop, you buy Pepsi, and when you open it, you realize it's alcohol. Yeah. رَبَّنَا إِنَّا سِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. You realize you've put it down, threw it away, that's the end of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not hold us to account for that which we do unknowingly, or that which we do in error. So you didn't know. You didn't have that irada or qasad, you didn't have that wish that today I want to find from the 100 bottles of Pepsi on the shelves, I want to make sure I try to find the one that's got alcohol in it. As long as you didn't do that, then inshallah you're okay. Yeah? So that which we do unknowingly, like in your sleep you think you've done something haram, whatever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't hold you to account for that. But still, the good practice is you still make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, tawbah isn't only to be made when we sin, but it should be made at all times. And Allah knows best. Make sense? Barakallahu fiqh. Naam, Shaykh.
Sheikh, I think you've really touched on it. So these companies that make the alcohol, they also sell like 0% alcohol, like drinks. But obviously they're fermented in the same places as where the alcohol is. Would you say it's best to stay away from these sort of drinks?
No one from the ulama have said that them drinks are haram, or them drinks shouldn't be drank or what have you. Yeah? But this is something that requires some tafsil, I think. What's better and what's not better If something's not haram, then I think the better, not better, doesn't come into it. But if it's going to mean that you're going into a place where alcohol, like for example, is on the shelves where alcohol is, and you're picking up that can from that same shelf, then wallahi avoid it then. Then we should avoid it. Yeah. But in some countries, there's no alcohol. For example, in the Mamlaka, may Allah preserve the Mamlaka and keep them upon Tawheed and Sunnah. And it's, you see it there, but there's no alcohol there, so that's a different issue, and Allah knows best now.
So, Ustaad, I've got like 2 or 3 questions, but just briefly.
Sure.
First one is that in the beginning of the lecture, you touched about sisters and females working. Obviously, in modern times, there's lots of facets to female empowerment.
Yeah.
So where does a sister or female fall into the permissibility if she's allowed to work, or she should remain at home to be the queen of the house, as you mentioned? The second one is that you touched on the music issue, where sometimes as younger children we use nursery rhymes and rhymes that really are sort of singing, but it's an educational tool. Where's the line that we can draw? And thirdly, I know you're very close to Sheikh Wasiullah. We've heard some reports recently that he's very unwell. Could you shed some light on that for us, please?
Now, first of all, can women work? Essentially, that's the question. So as I said in the talk, what I mentioned is a general principle, what the starting point should be. And of course, there's exceptions to that. And there's some tafseel and some detail to that. Depending on the person's circumstances and the person's need, darura is very important in this whole concept of the permissibility and impermissibility of working. So this is something on an individual basis that should be taken to an alim, a scholar who understands the need that you're mentioning, and so on and so forth. And if you didn't work, for example, what would be the detriment? What would be the harm? And then the alim will check the mafsada and the maslaha, whether there's a greater harm or there's a greater benefit for that particular individual to be involved in that work. Maybe you're the only person in the entire community that can do that work as a woman, and nobody else can. And if you didn't do it, then the harm would harm the whole community, and Allah knows best. So these are things that we should take to the ulama on an individual basis. But the starting point is the man should provide for his wife so that she can take care of the children and the house. And the reality is, brothers and sisters, that's actually a job in and of itself. Wallahi, when a wife takes care of our children and the house, this is actually a full-time job. That's the reality. Whether, as men, whether we accept that or not, more of a job. Yeah, it is. It is more of a job. And the thing is, when they get it wrong, we then make a big point of it. Why did you let him do that? Why did you stop him doing that? So not only is she the worker in the house, but she's also like the policewoman in the house also. She has to be the security guard, the policewoman, the nurse, the yani, can women become doctors? Well, she's the doctor in the house. The husband's outside working, and she's taking care of the children. Yani, of all of their needs. And then she's the chef, the cook as well. When you get home, we expect the food to be on the table. And actually, if we really analyze the seerah of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we really, really fall short in this, for sure. And I can't even say these words because, we all fall into this sin, I think. We don't help in our house the way we should be helping our wives. And the best of those people are those that are best with their families. And this is a hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So the woman has a great maqam, a great station in the house. And if she can do that, and she could safeguard her chastity, and she could take care of her children and her family, then the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said that Jannah is for her. There's a question at the back from that sister, if you want to take it, young man. One of you. Jannah is for her. And she safeguards her tongue and so on and so forth. So this is an issue that requires tafsir, for which you should go to the ulama for, and Allah knows best. As for the second issue of alcohol, what was the second issue?
Nursery rhymes.
Nursery rhymes. Yeah. Well, as long as there's no, the sheep flew up to the sky. The sheep flew to the sky, and let's count them, and sheep are flying, and that kind of thing. Yeah. The magic witch came, and I don't know what nursery rhymes we got nowadays. Yeah. But as long as it's not against the teachings of our deen. But if you're doing it in such a tone where you're teaching the kids it's almost like teaching them tantamount to music. This is something that should be avoided, no doubt. Because the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, some kalam is sihr. Certain speech is like magic. It's not necessarily that the flute is just magical and that. No, it's even some speech. The way it's presented, it can settle into the hearts of our children. So, especially for those who are able, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. You know, we should become governors of schools. We should be involved in our children's education. As Salafis, we are not people that just sit at home and don't get involved in our local community issues. We should, to the best of our ability, to benefit all the community, all of the community. And if that means becoming a governor at a school and trying to do good and benefiting everybody, then this is something that we should do. As for those that do homeschooling or those that go to Islamic schools, then this is something that should be avoided. And Allah knows best. What was that? Sheikh Wasiullah Abbas, yeah, he's actually very ill. I've not had the opportunity to speak to him. But inshallah, we may do Allah gives shifa ajila kamila to our Sheikh. May Allah SWT bless our ulama. I'll just deal with the question from the sister. Some brothers want to take another wife and keep both wives on benefits, as they think that if it's a right to take benefits, even to say she is a single mother. What do you think of that? Well, I think we need a whole lecture on the rights of the spouses between each other. Firstly, the law of the country should have been broken. That's the first thing. And it's not permissible for any person to take the law into their own hands, to the extent that our ulama have mentioned that it's not permissible for a person, even if he's living here in the West, to jump the red traffic lights. Wallahi, our ulama have mentioned this. That we don't jump the red traffic lights. We're breaking the law. We do this. We make these mistakes. We're humans. We fall into this error. But that's how much of a high standard Islam expects of the Muslims. That's the first thing. Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. The Muslim doesn't cause harm to those around him, whether it's through his tongue or his hands. By being involved in something illegal, let me tell you the results of that. Wow. There's certain things that can happen in your life that will probably haunt you for the rest of your life. And to be involved in something as small as this, we may think it's small, but it can explode and become something so big and such a trial for that person. So my strong advice is, whether it's the brother being involved in this issue, or a sister or what have you, then always try your utmost to do things as they should be done, because the results of that which is just done upon foolishness is something that will only lead to further foolishness and further sin. May Allah save us from that. Allahu A'lam. Now,
I have a comment about that.
I'm sure.
If the sister is married
Yeah.
and her married group,
Yeah.
she has kids, she taking benefit for her kids. By the law of this country, the husband is trying to bring as he can.
Yeah.
They come to register in two places. What is the issue?
Yeah.
By the law of the country.
There's no issue by the law of the country. But the only issue you've got here is that you can't declare she's your wife.
You can't declare in front of the government.
Yeah.
In front of
Allah, you can, of course. And this is why فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. You support her as much as you can. But if it's going to mean that she gets a knock on the door in a month's time, 2 months' time, and it's the police saying that you've been claiming money when you're not entitled to it.
This is not allowed for sure. Even to
Yeah.
make her in a need for to knock her neighbor's door
Yeah.
to ask for money, putting her down as soon as she can survive.
No, that's right.
A
Yeah.
certain amount.
Yeah.
So she can't stop Allah's law.
Yeah.
Because in this country we are in a need to know the proper knowledge,
Yeah.
especially about this position.
Yeah.
It break a lot of homes, and in front of my eyes,
Yeah.
I see lots of brothers
Yeah.
have broken them homes to please the other wife,
Yeah.
because they can't control it underneath the umbrella of the
Where we live, yeah.
the waste.
Yeah. I agree.
So
I just to let you know, brother, yeah, I know a thing or two about family law. and about divorce law, and I've seen many marriages. You're right, I agree with you completely. But sometimes it's better, in fact, most of the time, it's better to be cautious, yeah, and clear than to be ambiguous and unclear. Because what happens is when things break down sometimes, that same wife or that same husband, believe you me, brother, they become enemies of each other, may Allah save us. And they take each other to court, and so many things happen.
And here is the problem: is you don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, we should all fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course. Yeah. Yeah, may Allah save us, of course. But if there's any specific fatwa, as I always say in all of my talks, then the people should refer to the people of knowledge and seek a specific fatwa. But as for breaking the law, then that's not advisable under any circumstances now. What's up, Sheikh?
My son is a bit shy to ask this question.
No problem.
He said to me, Dad, can you ask it?
Sure.
He wants to know why Islam is the best religion and why it's the true.
Islam is the most beautiful and the most complete and the most perfect religion. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam deena. Allah chose Islam as a favor, and He completed Islam as a favor upon us. So if we turn away from Islam, we're turning away from the greatest favor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done for us. And what do you think? Allah Azza wa Jal will be happy through that or angry with us? He'll be angry. So to be upon Islam is the greatest way of ensuring that we have the mercy of Allah on our side, we have the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with us, and we are upon a religion which was given to us through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through a prophet who was the best of mankind. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the best of people, and he had the best characteristics, he had the best teachings, he was the most noble of people, the most generous of people, the most kindest of people, and his sallallahu alaihi wasallam's teachings were the most perfect of all teachings. And he was a teacher for the Sahaba, and the people around the Prophet were the best of the people. So Islam is the best in every way, whichever angle you look at it. So how can we not be upon that which is the best way? Inna dina indallahi al-Islam. Islam is the religion which has been chosen for us. So this is why, alhamdulillah, we are proud to be Muslim, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to die as Muslims. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. One last question, then I have to go to another dars.
What's the ruling upon, for example, eating in a restaurant which is halal, but they sell alcohol at the same time?
Yeah, you should avoid it, no doubt about it. If that's the only restaurant and you're going to die if you don't eat the masala fish, then maybe you're excused. But to sit in a place where alcohol is being served is something which our ulama totally are against, and they warn against it. And the reality is a lot of it is based upon desire, and sometimes it's just based upon us being relaxed. And we all fall into sin. May Allah save us from that. Allah forgive us all. Last question for you, Sheikh.
You know when you said about women and things,
Yeah.
why do you feel the need as a man to tell a woman what she can do and what she can't do?
Yeah.
Also, you said something about Saudi Arabia. Recently, Rahat al-Qanun ran away from repression
Yeah.
in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is a dictatorial regime.
Yeah.
I think they're a threat to peace, I think. Also, women, why are they at the same cause? Why is their voice not worth as much as a man's? In fact, you need 2 women for a man in Islam. How is that balanced?
Yeah.
How does feminism fit into Islam?
Yeah, of course, excellent questions. Very briefly, in response, before Rasulullah came with the message of Islam, the way that the women were being oppressed, it's shocking. To the extent that if a man were to have a daughter that was born to him in his household, he would see as such a shame and degradation that he would bury her alive. Rasulullah came to stop all of this, stop all of these evil practices. Women were literally had absolutely no rights whatsoever. Women were slaves, and not only slaves, they were passed around from man to man, man to man, man to man, from one nobleman to another nobleman to another nobleman. And this is something that's recorded in not only Islamic historical narratives, but non-Islamic historical narratives, just mentioned as a period of that particular time. They truly were the dark ages in many respects. So the Prophet ﷺ came and he actually gave a voice to women. He gave rights to women. Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. He actually informed the people to stop these evil practices, firstly, and secondly, that the woman is a covering for you and you're a covering for her. The woman is a means of sakina, a peace and tranquility for you, and therefore you should be the same for her. Now, the interpretation of that is not that you could treat her as your possession. Islam doesn't allow that. For you to be a covering for your wife and a means of peace and security and stability and happiness for your wife isn't for you to boss her around or to treat her as a commodity. This is not Islamic. This is something which is un-Islamic. If you want to look at the rights that the Rasul ﷺ and Islam gave to women, then look at what is mentioned in the book and the Sunnah rather than looking at the Muslims. That's a stark reality, by the way. If you want to look at us as a nation and how we are with our women, then we fall short way off the mark many times. So don't judge the rights of a woman in Islam through just looking at how the Muslims are with their women generally. Alhamdulillah, I'm not saying that it's all doom and gloom, but there's many areas where things can be improved. What's feminism? If feminism means that I'm going to allow my wife to go out in a short mini skirt so she can show her legs and her flesh to everyone, and people can vomit on her when she becomes drunk, she can defecate on the street in front of everyone, then this is not feminism at all. If you mean by feminism women having a say in the life of her husband, in the life of her children, in society, her playing a role, like with the greatest scholar, if you want to say, in the time of the Sahaba, after the death of Rasulullah, there were the few men, and there was then Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha. The companion men would be lined outside of her house, is mentioned in narrations, seeking religious verdicts of her. This is a woman. So the status of women, and the wife of Rasulullah Khadija, she was a woman who would be involved in the day-to-day runnings of livelihood for her family and for her uncle at that time. So the status of women, the Rasulullah came to totally put it down, and the women had a say in a society. If they had a complaint, they had a place to go to. Before that, if they had a complaint, they would just wallow in that self-pity and they had no way to go to. But Islam gave them all of these rights. And then through that, the Khulafa, they established various other roles and responsibilities and rights for women. And the answer requires much detail, but the point is, Islam actually believes and he advocates feminism, but a feminism which is based upon the Quran and Sunnah. Now, why does a woman have the ability to only have, or the permission to only have one husband, whereas a man can have 2, 3, or 4 wives? Then the answer to that also is that imagine if a woman went to had 4 husbands. This would cause so much corruption in society, and Islam came to stop corruption. People wouldn't know who their fathers are. People wouldn't know if the girl that they're marrying actually is their sister or is it their brother, or the corruption, the facade, from ranging from incest all the way down to just simply the entire corruption that would occur is mind-boggling. And we see that as time is going on, there are far greater women than there are number of men, and that's the people are saying that it's going to increase. So there's a hikmah, there's a wisdom behind that. There's always a wisdom behind the decisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether we recognize or understand them or not. That's a brief answer to that point. As for Saudi Arabia and this lady who claims that she had difficulties in Saudi Arabia, maybe she did, Allah knows best. Maybe she didn't. She's left her religion, la ikraha fi din, qad tabayyana rushdu min al-ghayy. No one forced her to accept Islam and no one forced her to leave it. This is a choice that she made, and she will be standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering for it. I'm not going to answer on her behalf, nor are you, nor is anybody else. And she left something which was pure and complete for that which is less than that. قَالَ تَسْتَبْدِلُونَ الَّذِي هُوَ أَدْنَى بِالَّذِي هُوَ خَيْرٌ. Do you change something which is good and better for you than that which is less for you? Whatever her reasons were, whatever her justifications were, she knows, and our Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. But to judge an entire nation of 30, 40 million people based upon what one woman says is actually quite far-fetched, and nor is it scientifically accurate to do that. What about the other 10 million, 15, 20 million people that are happy with that regime? Whether that regime is good or not, then Allah is the one who knows the affairs of the heart. What we see is that there's more good in them than bad, and we hope and we pray for all of our Muslim rulers, every single one. Not only Saudi Arabia, people have this thing, is it just Saudi Arabia? Every single nation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows them to be more just and upright than they are and better than they are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us better. We make dua for our rulers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep them upon the Quran and Sunnah. So we don't judge in isolation. This is a mistake that we make, that we watch something on the news or we'll hear about something and then we'll make a judgment concerning that. Just like I've not stood here before you and made a judgment concerning that lady. What's her name? Qanun. Raf. I've not made a judgment concerning her. And you'll find people being very quick to rush to judgments. Allah knows what her reasons are. But what we know for sure is that Islam is a religion. And Islam is the chosen religion by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Islam is the perfect religion and it's a complete religion. And we have no shame or no hesitation, walillah alhamd, in saying that. You know, maybe she has whatever her reasons are, but to say an entire nation is a corrupt regime and so on and so forth, that this is something that we should avoid.